Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, 100% Pure Elvis. How are we all feeling today? I hope you are all feeling well, and thank you for your continued support of the 100% Pure Elvis channel. As always, a big, massive welcome to each and every one of the new subscribers who have joined the 100% Pure Elvis channel recently on this upload. I do not have anything from my collection to share with you. I just want to talk about something that's going to be very controversial, but I really wanted to tackle this, and it is how relevant is Elvis Presley in today's society. I am talking about that because I was having a conversation with a work colleague the other day about the relevance of Elvis Presley in today's society. And again, for me, I still believe to this day Elvis Presley is the best entertainer that has ever graced the world stage. And again, I think as Elvis fans, we are so lucky to have such a body of work from Elvis in such a short span of his 42 years. Obviously, the last 21 years in particular, from 1956 to 1977, he'd done so much in such a little space of time. You know, the big, massive rock and roll star from the 1950s exploding out onto the music scene. Again, people were in awe of his music style. You had other people that thought Elvis was going to be a flash in the pan and would be a one-hit wonder, and he would go away and again not have the career that he did have. But Elvis conformed with every decade that he was in respect of, you know, in the 1950s, he was the rock and roller, went into the army for 2 years, came out of the army, and the music scene had changed, and Elvis conformed with that. He had to change his style as an entertainer. He became the actor on the movie screen. So us as fans had the opportunity to go and watch him on the big screen, as well as still continue to buy the music and the soundtrack albums and the studio albums, etc. I think for me, the 1960s, when you were looking at Elvis from the 1960s, you are really solely going to be thinking of the movie years. But again, big things happened in the 1960s, being the 1968 NBC TV special, where again Elvis returned to a live audience after so many years out in the wilderness. And let's be honest, guys, Elvis's record sales at that time were declining. And for me, I think it was a masterstroke to do the TV special. We all know what Colonel Tom Parker wanted. Colonel Tom Parker wanted it to be a Christmas special, but Steve Binder had other ideas. And thankfully, Elvis went with them ideas, the black leather suit. Again, it's such an iconic image still to this day. You know, even young teenagers to this day, if they look at an image of Elvis in that black leather suit, they automatically know it's Elvis Presley. You know, again, when you're talking about someone's career and the career that Elvis had, again, how many big artists that are still on the world stage have that power to transcend all generations? I think Elvis has that in abundance. Elvis transcends every generation of all ages, and I don't think all big artists can do that. When you look at record sales, Elvis is still to this day the biggest selling solo artist ever, with sales of over 1 billion plus worldwide, and still growing. Obviously, the next nearest one's the Beatles, but they were a group. And again, for me, look at the body of work that is still being released to this day. And you got the new Baz Luhrmann Elvis in Concert movie coming out. So again, Elvis, in my view, is so relevant still to this day to all generations. So when you are looking at the life and career of Elvis Presley, you know, again, I will always go back to, you know, what other big star that is out there now sings all kinds of music? I mean, Elvis did rock and roll, country, gospel, Christmas, pop. You know, whatever he wanted to sing, he could put his voice to it. And again, the iconic Aloha from Hawaii from 1974 being that first entertainer that did a worldwide concert, beamed to over 1 billion worldwide. Again, to this day, not touched by any other artist. If Elvis was still around now as an artist, would he be as big as what he was when he started out in the 50s? I'm not sure. Each generation has their own idol. Again, for me, who is someone that you could say is close to Elvis now? I mean, Taylor Swift, you could probably say, is an artist that has a huge following. Obviously, Michael Jackson, who sadly passed away in 2009. Again, Michael Jackson is another artist that transcends all ages and generations. But again, with Elvis, I look at the body of work that Elvis left behind. The music styles of Elvis. Again, I'm not a massive fan of Michael Jackson, but I appreciated his music style. But to me, Michael Jackson, I believe, couldn't sing all types of music. And, Elvis could sing all types of music. And again, when you were looking at talking about body of work, when RCA decide to release anything of Elvis to the public, it still gets into the charts. It still gets into the albums chart. Not the high numbers as when Elvis was with us. But if RCA decided to do a greatest hits compilation for an anniversary, etc., it will always get top 10, especially in the United Kingdom. For me, the recent one, obviously Sunset Boulevard, okay, it did reach the albums chart. It only stayed there for 1 week. But to me, Elvis fans will still go out and buy Elvis music. They will go out and buy that new box set that RCA has released, or the Memphis Recording Service label have released. And I think from my personal point of view, Elvis is so relevant now than what he was when he was alive. People, Elvis fans, the pilgrimage to Graceland, every year, some people go 2, 3, 4 times a year to pay their respects to Elvis. They'll go to Germany, where he was based when he was in the army. Us as Elvis fans, these are things that we like doing. Unfortunately, I've not visited Graceland or Germany as yet, but it's something that I do want to do. And again, when you're talking about Elvis as a person, for me, Elvis, he has touched the hearts of so many thousands of fans around the world, just solely by being Elvis Presley. And I think for me, being an Elvis fan, it encompasses everything in regards to, if I'm feeling down, I will put Elvis on, I put my headphones on and I feel in a better place. Also, if I'm in a good mood and I want, I'll put Elvis on. People ask me, do I listen to Elvis every day? Not every day, but most days. Again, I was talking recently about the festivals of Elvis Presley. So at this moment in time in Great Yarmouth in the United Kingdom, we have the Strictly Elvis Festival happening. And again, the Strictly Elvis Festival has people that come over from America who knew Elvis, who worked for Elvis, could be an ex-girlfriend, a member of the Memphis Mafia, someone who was in a movie with him, part of the TCB band. There are so many people that come over to the Strictly Elvis Festival in Great Yarmouth in the United Kingdom solely to meet the Elvis fans. And, that's what we love. And unfortunately, again, I can't make it this year due to work commitments. But this year, I know the special guest is Mindy Miller, and I've never had the pleasure of meeting Mindy Miller. But again, we are so fortunate to have these festivals to go and visit. I mean, some of them are a weekend, some of them are a week-long festival. And then, you can't look past the ETAs, the Elvis tribute artists. And again, in the Elvis field, some core Elvis fans will absolutely say, I do not like ETAs. I understand that. Of course I do, because no one can beat Elvis. But for me, I think they do have a place in respect of some of them are very good at what they do. Again, some of them, they absolutely try and imitate Elvis in every single way possible. That sort of thing I don't overly like a great deal, because again, okay, if you're an ETA, you're going to be an Elvis tribute artist, but again, do you have to imitate everything that Elvis did throughout his career? I just feel that some of them should use some of their own imagination. But again, I've seen some ETAs who, not being rude, they're not the best. And I've seen some ETAs that I just feel are outstanding. A couple that comes to mind who I really enjoy going to see is Gordon Hendricks and Chris Connor. I really do enjoy them too. But again, ETAs, I think there is a place for them in the Elvis world. But again, I know some core Elvis fans will not go nowhere near them. Again, I just think, again, in my personal opinion, that is still keeping Elvis's music alive. So people that obviously were too young to see Elvis in concert, like myself. I mean, obviously I was far too young in the 1970s to go over to America to see Elvis Presley live in concert. So the next best thing sometimes is an ETA who is kind of given a performance that Elvis would have given. And obviously we've had over the years Elvis Presley live in concert on the big screen with the TC band on stage. And I think that's been a great thing for the Elvis Presley fans. I've seen it multiple times, and I just think it's just amazing. Elvis up on that big screen with the TC band live on stage, I think it's awesome. But again, you can't beat the man live on stage. And again, for me, when you talk about the career of Elvis Presley, you have to look at the concert years as well. The relentless touring that Elvis did. What artist can do that now? Let's be honest with each other. I don't think any artist can. An artist will go out on the road and promote their latest album, and they might do 3, 4, 5 months, and then that'll be it. Elvis Presley relentlessly was on tour throughout the 1970s with very minimal breaks in between. And I do think that affected his health, unfortunately. And again, for me, Elvis absolutely did so much in such a short space of time. And for me, when people say, what is the relevance of Elvis Presley in today's society? For me, my argument is Elvis is so relevant still to this day because of who he is, and just the name Elvis. You don't have to say Presley. If you say the name Elvis, people automatically know who you're talking about. Sorry, can I just take a drink of water? Obviously, the only other Elvis entertainer that I know is Elvis Costello and the Attractions. Again, don't know much about his work, but again, if you say Elvis to any person now of a specific age, they'll all know who you're talking about. And again, for me, there's not many artists who can use one-word names who you can straight away who they are. And again, me, my channel is 100% pure Elvis, but on this talk today, I do want to talk about, one of my other, I will talk about some other favourite artists of mine who I do collect a lot of. Eddie Cochran is one of them. Eddie Cochran, great rock and roll artist as well, who sadly passed away in 1960. I'm a big collector of Eddie Cochran. So again, I've got my own Eddie Cochran YouTube channel as well. I've only started that quite recently, actually. And again, Kylie Minogue, some people might say, oh, that's so different from Elvis. But again, I've been a huge follower of Kylie Minogue since 1987. I've got a great body of work of Kylie as well. So again, there is certain artists that I do love collecting. But again, Kylie in the United Kingdom, you say Kylie, you automatically know who you're talking about. In America, people would probably say Kylie Jenner. But again, it's all about, for me, when I have a discussion about the relevance of Elvis Presley in today's society, I just automatically say, just look at the body of work. Look at whenever anything is released from Elvis Presley via RCA, Elvis still gets in the charts. Whenever it's anniversaries of his death or anniversaries for his birthday, etc. Again, when something is released, it will sell good numbers. The singles box collection that was released weekly, a few years back, and the follow-up, every single one of them singles reached the top 20 UK singles chart. Some of them re-entered back at number 1. So again, for me, that is solely because Elvis Presley fans wanted to purchase them items. And again, we all know, still to this day, Elvis Presley has the most UK number 1 singles in the singles chart at 21. I do personally believe it will be overtaken soon by Ed Sheeran. Everything Ed Sheeran releases goes to number 1 in the singles chart. But again, does that bother me? Not a great deal, because obviously Elvis sadly passed away in 1977. So again, the body of work that we have been getting since 1977, nothing's new. Obviously, we've had the odd new take of a song that might not have been released before. Top of my head, the 12th of Never, that was released as a single in the 1990s, and that reached the UK top 30 singles chart. Again, but whenever like the Memphis Recording Service label released their box sets, again, they're good sellers. And as I was saying earlier, when RCA decide to re-release Elvis albums or greatest hits, they'll always get in the near the top of the albums chart. To me, if RCA decided to release an Elvis Presley greatest hits album and did good advertising behind it on the TV, online, etc., I personally believe it would get to number 1. I really do, solely because of, with it being Elvis. Again, it's all about advertising as well, isn't it? So if you've got a good advertisement behind you, and if the record label push it, I believe it will get to number 1. Because again, I work in retail, and for me, if you walk into a record store and you see that Elvis greatest hits at the front of the store that's just been released, people will pick it up, because again, the hits of Elvis Presley, them songs that people remember from the olden days. And I think, with the Baz Luhrmann film with Austin Butler, it was a new release. It was a new, breathed new life into the Elvis Presley world. And again, people went to watch the Elvis movie who probably weren't Elvis fans, or just really wanted to know more about Austin Butler as an actor in the role of Elvis. And again, that then made them want to go out and learn more about Elvis Presley and his music. And again, when I talk about the music of Elvis Presley, I talk about the different genres. And I know I mentioned it earlier, but again, Elvis transcended all genres of music. And, whether there were certain genres of music that you felt were better than others. Me personally, I think any genre of music that Elvis put his voice to, I just think was absolutely superb. But, I personally don't think Elvis put a foot wrong. For me, in the 1960s, some of the soundtracks to his movies wasn't the best, but that wasn't Elvis's fault. So again, Elvis recorded what he needed to record as part of that contract for the movie. So again, some people have said it's a masterstroke from Colonel Tom Parker, because we are so fortunate as of Elvis fans to have all this body of work. So we've got the 32 movies, the documentaries, soundtrack albums, the studio albums, the live albums, the TV special album. We are so lucky as Elvis fans to have all this body of work, and you can keep on collecting Elvis constantly. And again, I've been collecting Elvis since the late 1980s, and still to this day, you could easily go to a record fair and you could see an Elvis single or an album that you've not seen before, and and again, that's solely all because of the body of work that Elvis did in his short life. And again, what other artist has had that impact on the entertainment world? And we know Elvis had his critics, especially in the early days, but the books that I've read on Elvis, these critics of Elvis Presley from early in his career became to love him as the man that he was, and as the entertainer that he was. And again, for me, I sometimes get asked, do I believe Elvis knew how special and important he was, and how significant he was to his fans? I do, actually. I think Elvis knew he was special. I think he had a gift. I think Elvis truly believed the gift was given to him by God, and he had to use that gift to make people happy. And again, Elvis was such a generous man. And again, I will just go back to Elvis as a person himself. He was so generous as a person, so humble from his humble beginnings. And for me, when I talk about when people question how relevant is Elvis Presley in today's society, obviously people say the best thing that happened to Elvis Presley was passing away. I understand that. Of course I understand that, because, again, my channel's called 100% Pure Elvis, but I'm always honest in how I come across on my channel. And I said recently, I've had some negative comments recently, and again, some of them have been quite personal. So again, but I have kind of looked past that. But my opinion is, I understand why some people say that, because again, some people say people that come into this world who make huge impacts in such a short space of time, it happens for a reason. At the top of my head, you're looking at James Dean. Some people say James Dean, live fast, die young. Marilyn Monroe, the impact she left in such a young, she was 36, I believe, when she passed away. I'm also, a big fan of Marilyn Monroe as well, and James Dean, believe it or not. So again, and then Elvis at 42, Eddie Cochran, again, 21, Buddy Holly, the list can go on. So again, I think there is some relevance behind that, actually. And you can't look past, I think, when you're looking at 1977 and the music scene in particular on both sides of the Atlantic, let's not kid each other, Elvis sales were struggling. Again, that's because I think because the music scene was changing in the late 1970s, people were beginning to buy different types of music. And where did Elvis fit at that time? He didn't need to. He was Elvis Presley. He still sold good amounts. His concerts were sellouts. All of his concerts were sold out. But that was his hardcore fan base. So again, when he passed away, his record sales soared again. Everyone wanted to rush out and buy Elvis Presley records. And again, since then, he has stayed relevant to this day. And I will always say, every generation that comes along, an entertainer will come along who will not be rivaled. And Elvis is that entertainer, in my opinion. I don't think no one can touch Elvis. And the reason he is still relevant to this day is because we still talk about him. We still go and visit Graceland. We still go and pay our respects in Germany, to where he was stationed in the army. When it's his birthday, when it's the anniversary of his sad passing, in the thousands we will go and pay our respects. I mean, what other entertainer has that fan base behind them? And again, the music scene now has completely changed. You know, you cannot pit Elvis Presley against your likes of Taylor Swift, Adele, Ed Sheeran, etc. Because again, the amount of units you would need to sell now to get to number one is so different from Elvis's day. So in Elvis Presley's day, to get to number one in the albums chart, you would probably be looking at 300,000, 400,000 copies in 1 week to get to number one. Now, if you reach 45,000 to 50,000, you'll get to number one. You got your streaming, your downloads, physical copies. You really don't have to sell that many copies to reach number one. And that's why I truly believe if RCA released a greatest hits compilation or something special for an anniversary, etc., with good advertisement behind it, I truly believe it would get back to number one. The next thing is, could Elvis get back to number one in the singles chart? I do think that as well, yes, because obviously we talk about remixes. I'm not a big fan of remixes. I love the original songs as they were meant to be recorded, but I understand why some songs get remixed, because to conform more with today's buying public. So again, you have to look at A Little Less Conversation, Rubbernecking, to name a couple. I mean, both. I mean, A Little Less Conversation, number one in the United Kingdom. Rubbernecking reached the top 5 in the United Kingdom. So again, did it spoil the originals? I don't think it did, actually. You know, for me, they've got merits on either side. I mean, personally, I love the original versions of both and the remix versions of both. There's some remixes that I just think, oh my life, you know, why did they touch that? Why did RCA allow that? But again, you know, I believe that this music buying public now, you know, for Elvis maybe to get back to number one in the singles chart, it could be again a single being released, maybe with a dance remix behind it, where people are more conformed to it in respect of it's more of today's style of music. And again, us as core Elvis fans might not like that, but again, what would be the best for Elvis to get back to number one in the singles chart? With like a remix single, or just leave it be because Elvis has done what he needs to do? I'm kind of in both camps at the moment. I don't know what I think about that, if I'm honest with you. But again, I really wanted to share them thoughts with you today. And for me, you know, I was really thinking long and hard about, do I have this conversation of what is the relevance of Elvis Presley in today's society? But I decided to go with it because, again, for me, I can't see a world where there's ever going to be no relevance with Elvis Presley in it, because again, he just transcends all generations. He transcends all ages. And you'll go to, as I said earlier, an ETA concert, and you'll see all ages of Elvis fans. And so even the young ones, they know the words to the songs. They wear the Elvis jumpsuits, etc. And again, and that's because, you know, their parents have brought them up on Elvis. I mean, you know, for me, my mum brought me up on Elvis, and again, would I have become an Elvis fan if my mum hadn't have played Elvis with me with us growing up? It's difficult to say, because obviously, you know, all I knew in my household growing up was the music of Elvis Presley, and again, of course, my mum played other music, my stepdad played other music, and my stepdad loved Irish music, and my mum liked country music as well. But again, Elvis, whenever mum played Elvis, it touched my heart. I can remember thinking, mum, please put Elvis on, please put Elvis on. And, whenever a movie would come on TV, we'd sit in front of the TV as a family watching that movie. It was mainly always Blue Hawaii for some reason, GI Blues on the odd occasion. So again, I didn't really get to see a lot of Elvis movies really until the mid-80s, late 1980s, when I was started avidly collecting Elvis movies as well. But again, for me, that's where my relevance of Elvis started. And again, I'll just end by saying, if Elvis was an artist today, starting out today, would he be as popular and as big as what he was in his day? I think it's very difficult to say, but I think talent comes through. If you've got core talent and if you've got a great voice like Elvis had, I think you'll make it. There's so many artists out there that have got great voices that are struggling. Of course, I know that. But if we're talking about Elvis now, rather than in the 1950s, and if Elvis was bursting out onto the scene now, would Elvis be a popular artist? I think he would be, because of, again, the voice, his style, his delivery, and he could just put his voice to anything. And I just want to close by saying, when you talk about them different genres of music, like rock and roll, gospel, country, pop, the Christmas seasonal songs, we are so lucky to have an entertainer who graced the world stage. And to me, no one has touched him since. And again, to me, before I close off, that is why Elvis Presley is still relevant to this day. He is the best-selling artist worldwide. He has the most UK number one hit singles to date. He transcends all music genres. He is an artist that people still aspire to be.